Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
City Council on restoring the benefits, the residency requirement, and much more tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined tonight by two members of the Memphis City Council. Jerry Curry, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Martavius Jones, thanks for returning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Along with Bill Dries, reporter with the Daily Memphian. Let's start with, and I should note at the top here, Ford Canale was going to be here, councilman who at the last minute couldn't be here, but we're very happy that you all are here. And I'll start with you, Martavius. You're in council how many years now?
This is completing my fourth year.
Completing your fourth year. And this question of the benefits, you came on in right after the benefits had been cut, I believe.
Right, so I was sworn in January 16, yes.
So where do you stand on the sales tax referendum? Has many, many layers to it, right? It's not quite as simple as this is what was voted and this is what's going to happen. Sometimes referendums are, but this one looks like it's going to be a little murkier, a little muddier. Where do you stand? Should the benefits for fire and police be restored as they were back to the 2014 level?
If we can afford it.
And how do you figure that out?
Well, one of the things that we have to look at what it's going to cost us, particularly from a pension standpoint. If we were just talking strictly 401k type of retirements where there's no future liability for that, but we are essentially, we would be taxing our future generations and we'd have a tax rate beyond belief. So we have to look at the numbers to really see if we can afford it.
A tax rate, when you say tax rate, you would project then that property tax rates would have to go up to cover going back to the 2014?
We would have to, because the sales tax that are generated, it's particularly because we are talking about pensions. Pensions are long-term liabilities. People are living to be, somebody retires at 55, they could very well live to be 80. So you're talking about a retirement period almost just as long as someone worked.
Yeah.
So we really have to look at it financially before we can just go back and say restore it. Yes, a sales tax increase that was passed by the voters of Memphis, I don't think that goes to fill the entire void or the entire financial structure that we'd be looking at.
A bunch more questions on that, but get you and Councilwoman Curry, your take. Should the sales tax referendum be, for lack of a better word, honored? Letter of the law, letter of the word, I should say, that the benefits should now go back to their 2014 level.
If we do it as it was placed on the referendum, no, I can't say that I would be in support of that, simply by virtue of the fact you have other city employees that should also be beneficiaries of some of those funds. They were impacted in 2014 also. And as much as I admire what the fire and police have done, where do you leave those individuals in this donut hole of their benefits and what they can get out of it?
Let's bring Bill in.
So, as Eric mentioned, there is a whole lot of ground to cover beyond the referendum on this. When does the council start putting their arms around this to figure out what you're working with here? Are there decisions to be made this year, or is this all next year?
I would speculate to say that this is going to be a next year issue. With me rolling off of the council and two other council positions that have not been decided, I don't believe that currently we would be able to make decisions on that which would impact the incoming council.
Mm-hmm. Martavius.
One thing that I'm not sure of is when this actually takes effect. Is it January 1? Is it Monday after the election results were certified? I don't know.
Just to interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
The increase
Correct.
should
yes.
kick in.
I don't know when that takes place, but we've already approved the budget that is in effect through June 30th. So I would say any type of calculations or any type of planned spending for that should not take place until we go into budget for the next fiscal year.
And of course, the county commission is still debating whether or not they would take half of it, and what is it half of, and who votes in that referendum if they put it on the ballot as well.
Yeah, that's another interesting part. And going back to my school board days, I was always an advocate that the county should do so, because I think we still have a more pressing need, in my opinion, of, and we can get into some other issues with this, especially when I say this, from an educational standpoint, because when the county does it, 50% goes to education. So if the county were to do it, it would usurp what the city has done.
And we spoke, we had, former Councilman Ford, now Commissioner Ford on, who's been a big advocate that the county should step forward, take 50% of that. And I think, if I remember correctly, it should go to education, is what he said. If they're going to do that.
Statutorily, it's done.
Yeah,
yes.
and Van was on as well talking about that. In terms of, back to the affordability of it, it is, or let me go this direction. How do you feel? I mean, you're an elected official, okay? And do you feel bound by the will of the voters as expressed through the referendum? I mean, and that's obviously what, we had Tommy Malone, the head of the Firefighters Union, on right before the vote in a very heated discussion with Chairman Kemp Conrad. But is it a matter of you ignoring the will of the voters if you don't restore back to the 2014 levels? Or are you just going to ignore that?
No, I don't think we are just ignoring that, but what we are also doing is that you have people who may not have voted, but they would be affected by any type of future property tax increases. So even though there are people who may not have voted, we still have to represent what's in their best interest as well.
In your take, do you feel like you would be ignoring the will of the voter when a referendum passed saying, hey, do this?
Help me out, Mr. Dries. We had about 27% of the population that voted.
Right.
That's a small percentage of individuals that made a decision about whether or not this referendum should pass.
Yeah.
And with that being said, you have to listen to the population, but it's such a small percentage, you have to also take into consideration those individuals that did not vote and what their thought process would be with regard to it.
And let me ask one more question on this, which is, do you at least say, all right, so let's say what we're talking about is potentially a pool of around $50 million. It's not totally clear because it's sales tax money, and that can go up and down and can go down quite a bit in a recession, and but let's say it's around $50 million. Let's say the county takes half, so there's $25 million going into the coffers of the city of Memphis. Do you feel, even if you determine that, okay, we can't go back to the 2014 benefits level for the reasons you all have articulated, do you feel like that $25 million should nonetheless go to fire and police benefits or pay or those issues in some way? Or no, does it go in the coffers and it should be divvied up as the city council sees fit, regardless of what was said in that referendum?
One of the things that I think about too, and something that Councilwoman Curry talked about, are the other employees as well. And so to create an environment where a certain group of employees tend to benefit versus another group of employees. And we all have to say, we know that the fire and police, they do a job that I'm not brave enough to do, to be honest with you. And we have to recognize that. But we still have to look at it. There are other functions within city government that are important as well, but you're creating a disparate group of individuals when you do that.
And I see you nodding. So you don't even, again, if you determine we can't afford the 2014 benefits, but we've got $25 million, that $25 million isn't limited to fire and police benefits or pay in some fashion. It can be more broadly spent.
I believe it should be more broadly spent. Every city employee, if they have been disenfranchised simply by the budget that we passed going into 2021, should also receive funding as a part of those funds that are a part of the referendum. And as you said, we really don't know how much it is going to generate. The projection is $50 million. And if that's the case, if the county moves forward with their request, then we're looking at $25 million. $25 million, anywhere you want to slice, dice, or Julianne, it will not be sufficient for the pension. It just won't.
And so again, it could just go into the general fund and be dispersed in any which way. I mean, that is seems to be what most city council people are saying, right, Bill? That the city has the right. I think even if I remember right, Bill, Tommy Malone acknowledged that the city had the right to spend it however they wanted, but their argument's going to be will of the voters, will of the voters, will of the voters.
Practically, he used the term political suicide.
Yeah.
If the council didn't
Is it
abide by it.
suicide? Political? I mean, is it going to end your career voting against this? Are you afraid of the pushback?
We still have to be accountable to the taxpayers of Memphis, not just the voters of Memphis, the taxpayers of Memphis, and do what's in their best interest.
Okay. Bill.
Let's talk about a related subject, and that is the residency requirement proposal that is about to come your way, has been proposed, and the council has discussed it so far, hasn't taken any votes on it yet. This would basically be another referendum on the ballot to say that police and firefighters hired by the city would not have to live within Shelby County, which is the current requirement, that they could live within a 2-hour drive of the city. And again, that would go to city voters in November of 2020. If this ordinance passes on 3 readings, you haven't had the first reading yet. Each of you seems to have a different thought on this. Councilwoman Curry, is this a good idea?
Yes, it is. I support the city's efforts to actually hire police and fire. At the end of the day, we have a small labor pool. It requires being creative and finding other options to address the needs of 2,300 police officers to protect and serve the city. That's the way I see it.
Councilman Jones, I believe you have a different view on this.
Dallas has a large labor pool. Washington, D.C. has a large labor pool. Chicago, other major cities do. They have a challenge hiring police officers. And you look at cities throughout the country, some have residency requirements, some don't. But what is universal is they're having a hard time finding police officers. That's just the nature of the beast. These are first responders. The catastrophic hypothetical scenario that I came up with, we have an earthquake here. Somebody living 2 hours from Memphis, the DeSoto Bridge goes down, they can't get here. So I would want my first responders to live close to me in my neighborhood to respond in case of an emergency. That's what they're paid to do.
But should that be interrupt Bill for a second? I mean, right now it's in Shelby County, so Mississippi is in parts of Mississippi are closer to the DeSoto Bridge than parts of Shelby County, right? Parts of Arkansas, well, if the bridge is down. But I mean, is there some flexibility in terms of saying 2 hours is too far, but we are in a strange geographic place, right? I mean, that people living right across the border are 5 minutes from Memphis, 2 minutes from Memphis. Are you open to that, to a more nuanced opening of the residency requirement?
And you raise a good point, and that's our geographic location is a challenge to us. It can be a burden, and that's one of the reasons why I say this. Outside of Washington, D.C., I can't think of any other place besides Memphis that within 10 miles, you're in 2 different jurisdictions. So we have to look at Memphis's case. In D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, they all have a state income tax. Tennessee does not. Arkansas, Mississippi, they do. So that presents financial challenges to us that most major cities do not face. Right. So I don't think that we can be so generous to say, South Haven is closer to Whitehaven than Cordova is. But based upon our geographic location and the fact that we don't have a funding source to pay these people besides Memphis property taxes, I don't think that it's financially viable for us to do so.
So part of your issue, correct me if I'm wrong, part of your issue is that, look, you've got to live in the county, pay county taxes in part, or city taxes in part to fund the services that we're providing to the city of Memphis?
Well, no, keep in mind now, my first year, during this first term, I tried to shrink it to require that they live in Memphis, because one of the things, I had a conversation with former Councilwoman Tawan Stout Mitchell. She said she had a conversation with maybe a sheriff or somebody over in East Tennessee. And these are $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, once somebody's been on the force for a while. Those type of incomes, why do we want those type of incomes supporting places outside of Memphis and Shelby County?
Bill, back to Bill.
Your response to that?
whether they are $60,000, $70,000 incomes, in my estimation, supporting suburbs outside of the city of Memphis, for me, the bottom line is we need more talent. We need more police officers. We need more firefighters. It's not that I want to see those funds leave the city, but at the end of the day, and this is just my probably non-political approach to it, at the end of the day, the voters voted on a referendum, even though it was only 27%, that indicated that safety is concerning. If we don't reach outside of Shelby County within a 2-hour radius to find other individuals, then we are in essence creating a smaller pool. We're still going to have crime, and I understand Washington, Dallas, New York, DC, wherever it is, and I understand that everybody has issues with hiring of police officers. It's not a glamour job. It simply isn't. And why would anybody want to do it? It's difficult. But then serving on the city council is difficult. But that doesn't prevent people from wanting to do it. In light of all of that, my opinion is we need to be creative, have the dialogue, put it before the citizens of this city, and ultimately let them make the decision about whether or not they care where their police officers come from or their firefighters.
What do you think about the discussion that we've had in the past about whether or not police officers in particular should live in the city that they patrol in? Is there a problem with the concept of a police officer who lives outside of Memphis patrolling the city and then going someplace else to live their lives?
Oh my goodness. By implication, you're saying that someone who is not ingrained and inculcated in Memphis cannot patrol Memphis, cannot be a good officer for Memphis. I disagree with that theory. It is not, in my estimation, a sound or valid point for not wanting to go outside of for 2 hours or outside of Shelby County. It's just not.
Martavius?
I agree with that, but I still go back to the days where there used to be a police car parked down the street from me. You know, when police officers were able to take the cars home. And so if I think a neighborhood in Memphis feels a little bit safer if they know that Officer Williams lives 4 doors down. And that safety element should be in Memphis and in Shelby County, not in our surrounding areas when those officers are employed by Memphis.
Let me say conversely, also, when the pension was cut in 2014, unfortunately, there was a move by the police department to parcel out police officers to other cities.
It was the union, to be fair, right?
The
It was
union,
the
right. It
police
was the
union,
union that parceled out officers and encouraged them to go to other cities.
Okay, yes, great distinction there.
So-
The union, not the city.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
the city,
right.
but the union. They did that, and now the union is in support of the fact that we should go outside of Shelby County to hire officers.
Well,
So-
you take that for what it's worth, and
Yeah.
looking for who's coming from. But
So,
you know, so the same
created
organization
the same organization
that encourages
that-
people to leave Memphis,
Right. Now want them
Yeah.
outside of Shelby County to do so.
But let's come back though to you know, you were talking about it's a hard job, it's a difficult job to hire. It's a difficult job all around the country. Doesn't that kind of comes back to the referendum and benefits and pay and what does it cost to attract good people, right? So isn't that an argument for, I can imagine a union rep or any number of people making the argument whether or not that $50 to $25 million in new sales tax money goes to exactly restoring the benefits. It should go to fire and police because of the very nature of the difficulty of hiring those people.
Well, one of the things that I would go back to, when we look at our salary studies and we compare ourselves to other cities and during some of the impasses that we had during budget time, you know, I look at what the pay is. If I see that we are out of line with what our competition is, then I support it. But if it's one of those things where I don't think that we can afford to be. We still will have challenges if we're paying in the 1 percentile of what police pay would be. It still wouldn't have everybody come here. Just like we say, look, Tennessee has no state income tax. Well, all the businesses should come here. They're not here. So I don't think that this is a Pandora's box to where we just open it up and we open it up to people outside of Memphis. They'll come.
What is the right, as we kind of segue, about 6-7 minutes left here, what is the right number of police? The mayor has made, originally talked getting back to sort of a 2,500 number that was the peak number of police officers. It got down to 1,900. I think they're back to approaching, 2,100?
Almost 2,100.
Almost 2,100. He is targeting 2,300. Do you agree? Is 2,300 the right number?
I don't know, because one of the things that the mayor and his administration espoused during the campaign, crime is down, crime is down, crime is down, at the current complement. And our current complement now, when we talk about how many new recruits and how many classes we've had, we temper that with how many people have left. Right. We have only a net of about 50 officers. Right. So crime is down, and we have a stable or level number of officers. To me, I don't see, and I had this conversation after our last committee meeting with Chief Rollins. Ideally, you'd have to have one police officer for every individual if you want to make things pay.
Wow.
And we know that's not feasible.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a right number. Let's tackle that poverty issue, and then we tackle that crime issue.
For you, what is the right? Do you know what the right number is? Is it 23? Is it 24? Is it 22?
I think 2,300 is certainly a good starting point.
Yeah.
As opposed to starting from a rear position, which was 1,900. Is 2,300 what we need? I can't say definitively that it is, but it at least puts us in a better space in terms of addressing some of the crime that we have in the city.
Yeah.
And if it means we need to increase that number, I'm open to that. We would have to be open to that to move the city forward.
It's also how the police are used, as well as whatever the number is in the ranks. What is your thought? Because the council talks a lot to Michael Rawlings, the police director, about what he's doing, how much overtime he's using. All of these details are on the table whenever he walks into the committee room. What's been your impression of how the police department is managed?
I think Director Rawlings has done a great job. I believe that simply increasing the numbers would decrease overtime. You have to look at that logistically. You have massive overtime because you don't have sufficient officers. So if you can increase your pool of officers, then in my estimation, that is going to minimize overtime somewhat. That's not going to take care of all of it, but he has a hard job. And as council and city government, we should challenge some of his notions, but we should also support his beliefs in what he needs. This is a police officer that came up through the ranks. This isn't someone that we transported or imported in. So he knows this city, he knows the details of policing, and I think he's done a great job.
Councilman Jones, what do you think? Tactically, is the police department on the mark with what they are doing and how they are fighting crime?
Look, I'm not a crime expert. I don't know, honestly. If I had a criminal justice background, I think I could opine a little bit more. But just as a council member, one of the things I am concerned about is so much of our budget is for public safety, and it leaves so little for all of the other things, all of the other amenities that any attractive city would want to have, investing in children, neighborhoods, and communities. So, I can't sit here and say he's doing a good job, doing a bad job. Now, one of the things that I would encourage anybody to do, let's take a look at what's working in other cities. Let's try to bring some of those practices back here.
Briefly, as Mayor Strickland won in a bit of a landslide. He'll go into his second term. He's term limited. What do you want to see from the mayor in his next term?
I would want to see, as he talks about, more momentum going into other areas. I would want to see
outside downtown, Midtown.
Outside downtown, Midtown. I really want to see us tackle And one of the things I always say when we talk about Black-owned, minority-owned, and other women-owned businesses, let's be more strategic about that. Let's be more deliberate. The fact that the mayor has sole contracting authority, nothing has to come back before council. When you talk about professional services, those things don't have to be big. Let's be more aggressive in those areas.
For you, Councilwoman Curry, what do you want to see from the mayor?
I would agree with Councilman Jones on that. I would also like to see the mayor extend more into areas of the inner city and development and infrastructure, but it takes time. My take on it is a little bit differently because I work for a financial institution that works primarily in the inner city. So what I see more of is the development piece that we have to do with downtown and midtown, but we also need to provide other opportunities outside. Now, with regard to small business owners, I work in that arena, and there are initiatives that are being done that will help him move it forward as he goes into 2020 and beyond.
All right, we will leave it there. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.